Welcome everyone to the Dungeon Mother. My name is Tina, and today we are going to continue our adventure through the Waves of Time. So previously on the Waves of Time, our heroes acquired a new ally who seeks to gather information on a Death Knight general known as Raucus the Rancid. Hired by the Western Lord of the Iron Cascades, Lana has agreed to come with the party in search of this new adversary. Prior to encountering their new companion, Ping and Persephone were deep in conversation about the land of the dead. Seth learns that Ping has these mysterious abilities that allow her to go into the brine, and they end up convincing the rest of their members in the party to go. Within, they face a horrible creature that consumes souls before leaping on to safety on a vessel captained by a skeletal being. As our companions sail across the river, over hills, and towards the frozen lake, they begin to question their skeletal captain. He explains that the land of the dead, or at least in this part of the brine, most souls reach the river to seek judgments from Sedna. In their case, considering the fact that they are living, it's going to be different. By now they've reached the frozen lake, in which a glacier stands towering and looming over them, and they believe that this particular place, the glacier itself, they believe that this is where they will be going to meet with Sedna. Instead, their captain turns, leering at them through the black sockets of his eyes, saying, "Because you are living, you will need to find ghostweed. It will mask your scent to the dog of the sea." Side note. My players thought it was absolutely hilarious that there was something called ghostweed, so they spent about a minute or so laughing at me for coming up with the name. If this has ever happened to you, go ahead and shout out in the comments. The ferryman calls out these words, and then their vessel begins to rock violently. Water sprays on either side as an orca rises from below them and grabs on to the vessel itself with its massive jaws, flinging them skyward. As they all descend into the frigid waters, swirling dark waves encompass them as they find themselves leagues beneath the surface. The orca gathering each of them within its mouth before descending even further below. Caught within the teeth of this massive orca, they witness the orange hue of the white glowing eyes of this creature as it swims further and further down. It's clear that its intent is to reach the bottom of this abyss. At the time, I allow the players a chance to try to escape this creature. And during that time, they believe Persephone, Ping, Sal, and Lana managed to escape this creature. But no matter how many times they try to swim towards the surface, they are brought back down through the weight of the heavy brine. In the meantime, however, Kahame tries to make light of the situation by surfing on the whale's tongue. Eventually, all of them reach the sands of the ocean floor. But the first thing that they come to cross with is the fact that they can't breathe. A brief moment of panic sort of swells up in the players before they all decide that they need to find this ghostweed. And it's not a joke anymore. At this time, I do want to show a prop that I did for this portion of the adventure. I created this using cardboard, some paint. There is a not a blue, it's a purple. No, it's pink. It's a pink insulation foam that I will have to find the link to. I'll put it in the description below where you can find it. But I had a recommendation from Black Magic Crafts, and this is the foam that I've been recently using, or at least the kind that I can get my hands on, since the green kind in Germany is very difficult to get your hands on if you live in the US. And for the flower decorations, I found these at Michael's and just used whatever I had on hand. My plan is for the players to successfully reach 3 trials before they meet with Sedna. This area is the first place in which souls go to have their lives measured prior to the final judgment. Returning to our players, their plan now is to find ghostweed. Eventually, after a few skill checks, they do manage to find this ghostweed since it is plentiful in this area. They gobble it down and manage to catch a breath of air. With the immediate danger of drowning out of the way, they begin to sort of explore their surroundings. They all roll perception, and these are the details that they coin. Step structures and plateaus form the bottom of this abyss, as green pools illuminate the surrounding area. Large bubbles escape from these pools and float off into the open ocean. Crooked spires form a ribcage-like structure that claw their way out of the gray sands, stretching as far as the eye can see. Several ghostly figures make their way through the path in between these brine pools and head towards a large, icy wheel. It slowly turns through mechanisms that no one can quite tell, and each of these ghostly forms are hellbent on reaching it. Persephone and Lana, however, are drawn to a mound a few leagues away from their main path, both of them catching the glint of something shining. They approach it only to find a boulder that is encrusted with gems and ore veins. Lana, being the rogue, decides that she wants a couple for the road, disturbing the mound until it begins to move. It rises from the sands as gems and coins sort of roll off of the shell, revealing a cull. And they roll initiative. The group works together to fend off this creature as it focuses its aggressions on Persephone. After a few skill checks, Kahame gets the sense that this creature wants something from them, and Persephone, after hearing this from him, deciphers the factor that this creature is attracted to magical items. She in turn sacrifices one of her possessions, and it snatches it before retreating back to its shell. With the combat dissipated, they dust themselves off and head towards their next trial, hesitating at the turning cold wheel before diving down into the depths. Passing through the ice gate, they land weightlessly into the new area, and immediately they are assailed by unusually warm temperatures. An angry red glow emanates from the tunnel of black rock before them. Sand beneath their shoes has become warm and also coarse. Cautiously, they make their way to the end of the tunnel before being affronted by an intense heat. In view is a bridge, and surrounding that bridge is lava. They hear the echo of melodies in a garbled language. Here I have created new terrain. As you can see, the entire area is volcanic activity, and I created this very much in the same way as the previous terrain. However, I didn't add any floral embellishments because I don't think anything would really be alive with lava. Upon seeing both of these terrains, they were extremely excited, and little did they know, however, that this area would be much more challenging than the last. Kahame and Lana decide to go first, deeming Seth and Ping and Sal the lesser of their group, believing that Lana and Kahame are the stronger of the 5 of them? Yeah, it's 5. They swim out ahead, seeking to ensure that everything's safe, minus the lava, until they are affronted by the increase in sound from the ethereal voices. They swim about halfway before becoming entranced by the sirens' calls. Persephone, Sal, and Ping, however, are unaffected as they search for the source of this music. Beyond them and beneath the bridge, engulfed in the roaring heat of the lava, are merfolk that are calling Lana and Kahame to join them. The two of them, being entranced, begin to swim towards certain death. Persephone decides to jump into action, ordering both Ping and Sal to follow her as they grapple their fellow heroes. Wrangling their entranced party members, and after several skill checks that were very difficult, especially for Persephone, they manage to escape this portion of the trial and head towards the cavern ahead beyond the bridge. Once they are all safe within the cavernous tunnels, Lana and Kahame awaken. At this time, Persephone attempts to explain to them that she, Sal, and Ping had saved them. The two stare after her in disbelief and begin to poke fun at her, saying that there's no way a noodled arm magicker, a 80-year-old man, and a small child had saved them. Seth momentarily regrets her kindness in the midst of her attempting to convince them otherwise. It isn't long, however, before they reach their final trial. As they reach the end of the next tunnel, Sal brings it to the attention of everyone that the ghost weed is beginning to wear off. There's panic in the room until Lana rolls a perception check and notices that within the next area, dotted on the bottom of this glacier cavern, are more ghost weeds. She agrees to go down quietly and promises to be back soon. She slips out of the cave's mouth just as the rest of the party notices a large, ominous shape swimming past. The beast in question is a sea lion that circles the glacier cavern. Through some knowledge religion checks, they discern that this is the dog of the sea. Ping begins to tremble, and her nautilus shell that is within her shirt begins to illuminate, drawing the attention of the dog of the sea. It hones in on the group and barrels into the cave mouth, snapping its jaws and catching no one as they all back into the other end of the tunnel. The creature proves too large for the entrance as it attempts to force itself through, but failing to find purchase on anyone. After a handful of skill checks, Persephone and Ping get the sense that this creature is targeting the two of them. Ping clings to Seth fearfully. Sal steps forward, protectively, and raises his holy symbol, demanding to speak with Sedna. After a roll that seemed somewhat successful, the creature moves off and retreats back into the glacier cavern, but circling still, keeping its eyes on Seth and Ping. With the creature no longer blocking the entrance, Lana quickly moves back towards her companions and disperses the ghostweed amongst them. They all consume it as quickly as possible and manage to save themselves from drowning once again. With the ghostweed in their system, however, the beast seems to settle down, laying down on top of a large boulder. Through some perception rolls, the players notice an ice hole at the top of the cavern, and they make their way across. Everyone's swimming upwards until Lana notices that Sal is having a little bit of trouble. He's unable to fight against the weight of his own armor as he begins to sink towards the bottom. Lana dives down towards him, and Sal begs her to help him. She agrees, but with a price. Grumbling, he hands her a bag of the remainder of his gold, and she allows him to piggyback on top of her. He begs her, again, not to say anything about this, and then Lana manages to get a little extra gold out of Sal. They part through the water's surface and catch the drifting wind of air since the first time that they've dove into the brine. The ghosts that they've seen before climb out of the same hole, heading down the tunnel. Walls of aquamarine ice encompasses the path that is laid out before them. In the distance is the bright warm light of a fire that shines reflections over the ice. In them, they bear the glimpse of a dark-skinned woman. She has straight black hair that trails off in thin strands. Blue glowing runes dig deep rivers over her body. Her arms cross over her chest as she leans forward. Persephone recognizes this as Sedna, and so she rushes up ahead, despite the other players' complaints. The others groan as they are unable to stop their very excited necromancer, and follow after her as Ping sort of lingers behind Kahame and Lana. She hopes to use them to shield her from Sedna's view. They bear witness to a woman who sits with her arms over her chest. She is tall, looming over all of them in this massive cavern. Her fingers are sliced at the knuckles, as the remaining portion of her finger is missing and the tendons attach to the wall behind her. Trapped within the ice beyond Sedna, a shadowy figure draws near. An emerald eye shines brightly from its raven-like features before it withdraws, as Sedna lifts her head and speaks. It is unnatural for the living to enter into my sanctum. I see the kitten is at it again with her pleas. The woman grumbles, and Ping shrinks in her presence, her ears laying flat over her head. Sal stiffens at the sight before him, fidgeting with the symbol on the hilt of his blade. If you all desire to break my laws, speak with my disrespectful sibling. She cares naught for the way of the world. The rest of the party, minus Seth and Ping, have to make Constitution saving throws in her presence. All of them end up failing and vomiting on the floor. Persephone scowls at her party before returning her questions back to Sedna. She asks about Sedna's messenger from the first session, and it piques Sedna's interest. Her plans to punish them have been waved aside for now. When she hears about the troubling matters with a Death Knight, she decides to assist them in their journey. She provides a way to leave the land of the dead. One way being Strassport and the other being Helm's Hold, declaring that both places will provide them with the answers to their questions. The players evidently decide to go to Helm's Hold, and prior to being teleported away, Sedna bestows upon them her boon, which in metagaming terms is false life, essentially. So the players, each of them, are allowed to cast it once a day. And within the blink of an eye, she sends them on their way. And that is where we ended our session. I hope you're enjoying our series so far, and if you like what we've been doing, go ahead and tap that like button and consider subscribing for more updates. Until the next adventure, I'll see you then.